In this video I'm going to show you a mono loudspeaker that can actually play stereo sound as a result of a 90-year-old discovery. I would also like to introduce you to one of the greatest inventors of the 20th century, who you've probably never heard of before, but who invented much of the technology that we use today to listen to music and to watch movies. First, here's a quick look at the speaker. This is the Beolit 20 portable Bluetooth speaker by Danish audio brand Bang & Olufsen. Founded in 1925, B&O are the world's oldest surviving audio brand. Now, full disclosure, I was sent this speaker by Bang & Olufsen to review, which is why you'll have seen the paid promotion tag at the start of the video. However, all the research and the opinions that you hear in this video are my own. Now, those of you who are familiar with my channel will no doubt be aware that you can pair two of these speakers as a traditional stereo pair. However, that's not what we're going to be doing today. In this video, I'll show you how one of these mono speakers can produce stereo sound on its own, due to this 90-year-old little-known discovery. Now, if you're new to my channel, I'm Steve from soundsheavenly.com. I'm a lifelong fan and collector of Bang & Olufsen audio products, and I really enjoy the fact that my day job is helping people to connect their B&O speakers. So if you have any questions about connecting up or getting the best from your B&O products, please get in touch at soundsheavenly.com and I'll be happy to help. So, without further ado, let's head back to 1931. You may not have heard of electronics genius Alan Blumlein, but as an inventor with 128 patents to his name, he developed stereo sound as we know it today. He improved the quality of audio amplifiers by making them completely linear. He recorded the world's first stereo video, which incidentally is a black and white short film of steam trains entering a British railway station and is still available on YouTube. He also investigated the concept of surround sound for movies and developed the first reliable way of cutting stereo LP records. And this was in the 1930s. Now, if you have your smartphone to hand, please open the camera app while the video is playing and point it at this QR code. Your phone can then open a link with some more information about Alan Blumlein if you're interested in learning more about his work. Now, his research that's most useful to us here is the development of what audio engineers today refer to as mid-side audio processing. Incidentally, Alan referred to this in his patent as binaural audio, but this is basically stereophonic sound. Now, instead of having one audio channel for your left ear and one for your right ear, as we'd expect now when using headphones, Alan's mid-side stereo design gives you one combined audio channel, the mid channel, which contains all the sounds that are common to both the left and the right sounds, and then the side channel, which is basically the difference between the left and the right. Now, the beauty of this is that back in 1931, when no one had stereo speakers at home, this allowed the mid channel to be used purely for accurate mono reproduction containing all of the information through one speaker, and then the side channel could then be added and easily converted to give a stereo listener left and right channels as we know them now. It gets better because this approach is still useful today when making sound recordings, as it allows a single mono instrument such as a flute or a saxophone to be given stereo ambience that reflects the sound of the room where it was recorded. And this is done by carefully placing a second microphone at an angle from the first to pick up reflected sound within the recording room. And this gives the listener an accurate feeling of the room. Incidentally, this arrangement of microphones is still today referred to by sound engineers as a Blumlein pair. This, along with many of Alan's other investigations and discoveries, is detailed in UK patent number 394325, which was published in 1933, and you can read about it in detail on your smartphone now by pointing the camera at this QR code. Now, in the case of our wonderful Beolit 20 speaker, this mono speaker can take a conventional stereo signal, either via Bluetooth or via its 3.5mm stereo analog line input, and digitally convert this to mid-side stereo. And this gives a mono centre channel plus a stereo ambience that can be controlled via Bang & Olufsen's app. Now, in simple terms, the default setting for the speaker, which is marked as optimum in the app, has this ambience completely turned off. The left and right audio signals are effectively summed together to give the mid channel, which is sent to the speaker drivers, and that's exactly as would normally be the case with any single mono speaker. Now, if you open the Bang & Olufsen app, either if you own one of these speakers or if you go into a Bang & Olufsen store, if you go to the sound adjustment setting, you will see what's referred to by B&O as the Beosonic control. It's basically a tone wheel or a circle, and you can move a dot in the centre of that around the circle, and you'll see that it's marked at different points: high treble, high bass, low bass, and this allows you to tailor the bass and treble response of the speaker just as you would with any normal audio system. The position of the circle within the dial gives the overall tone of the speaker, but the key to this is that expanding the size of the inner circle with your thumb and finger brings the stereo width control into play. It does this by adding in the side channel of the stereo mix. So if you recall, that's the difference between the left and the right audio. Now, the default setting, as I mentioned, is marked optimum, and this doesn't have any mid-side processing enabled at all. The aim is really to just give a genuine true-to-life sound without any embellishment. However, my own personal view is that the speaker really comes to life once you expand that tone wheel and get the side processing coming into play. And having talked to a good few owners of these speakers and also of the previous Beolit's 15 and 17 models, I think many people own these speakers for a good length of time and never actually experience their full capabilities. But let's get back to the question: how can a mono speaker play both mid and side channels at the same time, effectively stereo sound? Now, this is the clever part. If we look at the design of Beolit 20, inside here we have a mixture of drivers. Right in the centre of the front panel we have a 5-inch mid-bass coaxial driver, which can actually produce full range sound on its own. Added to that are two passive radiators, one on each side of the speaker, and these are basically sprung acoustic panels which resonate in frequency with the bass from the powered driver, and they allow the sound to be heard anywhere around the speaker. That mid-bass driver is driven by a 35-watt Class D digital amplifier. In addition, there are 3 smaller full-range drivers, primarily for treble, one on each front corner of the speaker and one in the middle of the rear panel. And again, these are driven by a 35-watt Class D digital amplifier, and they're intended to give full 360-degree sound. So wherever you position the speaker, you should hear the same results. Now, the interesting bit is that instead of a regular passive crossover, as would normally be the case in a two-way loudspeaker like this with bass and treble, that's fixed at a set frequency, this speaker has a digital crossover that's adaptable. And each of these drivers is capable of producing sounds way beyond the frequency that it normally would use. So for example, this mid-bass driver can actually produce much higher sounds as well, and these much smaller drivers that are primarily for the high-pitched treble can also produce reasonably deep bass. When you combine this, the digital crossover can actually let you overlap them. So instead of just a regular two-way speaker with bass and treble drivers, now when we expand that tone wheel in the app and start to bring some of the side processing into play, the central 5-inch speaker can give you the bass for both channels as well as all of the treble that's common to both left and right, whereas the tweeters, the smaller speakers at the sides, can give you the treble and the mid-range and some of the higher bass that's different between the channels. And now the speaker suddenly appears to come to life. It has a stereo ambience that really expands the sound beyond the size of the speaker. It suddenly feels as though it's much more than it really is. It's quite an amazing experience the first time you do encounter it. And this is very different from the approach of using two of these as a conventional stereo pair, which incidentally also works well. But this gives you the feeling of a much larger, much more expansive, much more lifelike sound from a single small box. The thing that's worth noting here is that if, for example, you were to be using this whilst watching a movie and an actor walks across the screen whilst talking, you won't hear the sound follow them across the screen as you would in conventional left to right stereo. However, what you do get is a central point for the sound for anything that's central to the mix. So anyone who's central on screen in a movie, or lead vocals or kick drum in a music track. And what you then get is that from both of the outer speakers, you get all of that stereo effect, everything that is unique to one channel or the other. So you suddenly get that big ambience, that big feel of sound without having necessarily left and right location of those sounds. So it's subtly different from stereo headphones as an interpretation of stereo, but equally it's a very, very immersive and interesting way to present stereo sound through a single mono speaker. And when you add to this the clever digital signal processing, or DSP, that Bang & Olufsen put into these speakers, it really makes this what appears at the outset to be a conventional two-way mono speaker into something quite unique and special that certainly punches well above its weight. And if you consider that this has a quoted frequency response of 37 Hz to 20,000 Hz, and it really lives up to that. This has a bass depth and a stereo expansive feel that really, really punches above its diminutive size. Now, one thing I should note as well is that when you increase the side channel prominence by using the app, you will slightly alter the tonal balance of the sound, and in particular you'll often get a little bit more mid and treble than would be the case normally. And that's because primarily the sounds that your ears use to locate an audio signal are those around the high mid level, so about the pitch of a soprano female singer's voice and just above that. But you can counteract that by very slightly adjusting the position of that tone wheel and just bringing down the treble level a fraction. All in all, this is something that I would encourage you to experience for yourself, either at a Bang & Olufsen store, or if you're fortunate enough to have one of these speakers, to try out for yourself at home by adjusting and expanding the dial in that tone wheel, and see what you think to the mid-side stereo processing there. And please let me know in the comments what you think to this and what your experiences and your preferred settings are for this speaker. If you'd like to see my full review of the sound of this speaker, please click on the link that appears on screen. It will take you straight to my detailed review. And as I mentioned at the start, if you have any questions about connecting your Bang & Olufsen products, please get in touch at any time at soundsheavenly.com and I'll be happy to help. Thank you very much for watching.